Welcome to Quiet Psychology. Let's not start with incense, cliches, or distant mysticism. Let's start with something you already trust. If you throw a ball into the air, what happens? It falls. Gravity isn't a belief, it's a fact. Now take that same clarity and apply it to your intentions, your actions, and your words. They have a pull too, a law of return, a law of consequence, a law so consistent you can treat it like physics. Call it karma if you want, but here I'm going to call it something even simpler, the cosmic boomerang. Because whatever you throw, whatever you launch into the world, doesn't just disappear. It comes back. Not maybe, not if the universe feels like it, not if you manifest hard enough. It comes back because that's how the system is built. Someone who hurts you on purpose, someone who chooses to betray you, someone who tries to crush you, they think they've won. They think they've gotten away with it. They think you're the one who will carry the damage forever. But a boomerang has a habit. It completes its journey, and it always returns to the hand that threw it. That isn't a wish. That isn't a threat. That is the structure of reality. So how does it work? Is there a magical wand in the sky? No. It works much deeper than that, at a psychological level. Carl Jung, the famous psychologist, had a name for the parts of the human personality that are hidden, suppressed, denied, and kept in the dark. He called it the shadow. The shadow is the part of us we're afraid to face. Jealousy, rage, cruelty, the hunger to dominate, the urge to punish, the potential to do harm. When someone hurts you deliberately, they aren't acting from their best self. They are being ruled by their shadow. They've allowed their inner darkness to take the wheel. And the moment they do that, something begins. The boomerang they throw doesn't only travel toward you, it also begins a journey inside them, deep inside their psyche. Because injustice isn't only something you do to another person, it becomes something you do to your own soul. The imbalance starts immediately. They stain their own conscience in a way no one else can see, yet. They might not notice it at first. They might run from it for years. They might cover it with success, money, distractions, relationships, laughter, noise. But the stain is there, and over time it grows heavier. It spreads. It changes how they think, how they sleep, how they love, how they trust, how they relate to other human beings. That's the first step of what people like to call divine justice. Not lightning from the sky, but poison in the psyche. They can look happy on the outside. They can look powerful. They can look like they're thriving. But inside, they live with a quiet disturbance, an internal tension that never fully leaves. Because deep down, everyone knows you reap what you sow. And they didn't plant flowers. They planted a storm. The prison of loneliness. What do you think someone harvests when they sow a storm? A rainbow? No. Those who sow the wind reap the storm, and then the hurricane. And the first place that hurricane hits is always the most valuable place: human relationships. This is where we reach the first of the three great sins, three things that divine justice never casually ignores, because the psychological cost is absolute. The first unforgivable sin is this: the conscious destruction of trust. Betrayal. Think about what it means to trust someone. It means you hand them a key to your inner world. You crack open the door of your heart. You give them access, not to your body, not to your time, not to your attention, but to your vulnerability. And the person who harms you knowingly takes that key, walks inside, and sets fire to what mattered to you. That isn't a small mistake. That isn't, oops. That is a spiritual crime. And here's the part people don't understand. A person who kills trust in another person first kills the ability to trust inside themselves. This is where the cosmic boomerang becomes unmistakable. After betrayal, they can't fully trust anyone. And you know why? Because they assume everyone is like them. They see a knife behind every smile, a trap behind every kind word, a hidden agenda behind every warm gesture. They project their own darkness onto the world. Their own potential for betrayal becomes the lens they use to interpret everyone else. Life slowly becomes a fake stage. The people around them are either 1. Like them, or 2. People who haven't seen their real face yet, but they know. They know they can't form a deep, sincere bond because sincerity requires safety, and safety requires trust. Every relationship they build becomes like a beautiful building sitting on a cracked foundation. It can look impressive, it can look stable, but the smallest shake, the smallest conflict, the smallest insecurity, and it collapses. And Jung gives us a brutal line that explains why this happens. Everything that is not brought to consciousness returns as fate. If they refuse to face their shadow, if they refuse to face what they did, what they chose, who they became, then fate will meet them in the form of loneliness. And loneliness doesn't always mean being physically alone. The real punishment is being surrounded by people and still feeling untouched, unseen, unknown, like your laughter echoes in an empty room, like no one truly reaches you, no matter how crowded your life is. That is the dungeon, and the pain you felt, the ache of betrayal, the shock, the nausea, the disbelief, that feeling becomes their permanent companion. But here's the difference. You can heal, you can rebuild, you can learn to trust again, because you were the wounded one, not the one who chose the wound as a weapon. They, however, swallow the key to the dungeon they built, and people who live by betrayal often end the same way. They die alone in a crowd. So what else is waiting for someone whose relationships rot, whose life fills with masks, whose connections become shallow and performative? Where does the cosmic boomerang go next? The cracked mirror. Now we reach the second stop, where justice becomes even more visible. The second unforgivable sin. If a person is trapped in the prison of loneliness, if they can't build real bonds, if they've lost the key to trust, do you think they can feel peace inside that prison? Of course not, because the second place the hurricane hits is the mind itself. Here is the second great sin that divine justice does not excuse. Twisting reality through arrogance, bending the truth with pride, having the nerve to believe your own lie. After they hurt you, what do you think they see when they look in the mirror? A face full of regret? No, they justify themselves. They make themselves the hero. They might even make themselves the victim. They whisper a story into their own mind. I had to do it. They deserved it. They forced me. I was right. I was protecting myself. And that is the moment the mirror cracks. Because once the mind starts protecting the ego at all costs, it stops reflecting reality. It starts distorting it. They can no longer see their true reflection. They see a warped version of themselves, bent, edited, filtered through denial. And they call that distortion truth. Jung had a word for the mask people wear, the false, polished, idealized identity they present to the world. He called it the persona. And the person who bends reality to protect their guilt becomes a prisoner of their persona. They cling to the mask because facing their real self would be unbearable. So they don't forget what happened, they repress it. And the human mind doesn't erase what is repressed, it stores it. And whatever is stored in the dark doesn't shrink, it grows like a tumor. Drink, they celebrate. But at night, When the noise stops, something keeps them awake. Conscience. But not the clean kind of conscience that leads to honest remorse and change. This is the conscience of a mind that is fighting a civil war against itself. A war between who they pretend to be and what they know they did. And that war has a name: anxiety. Unexplained pressure, restlessness without a clear reason, a cold breath on the back of the neck, even in the happiest moments. The inability to fully taste their own success, because somewhere deep down, behind that cracked mirror, they live with one constant fear. What if the truth comes up? What if someone sees me? What if the mask slips? A person who runs from their own truth cannot have peace. That too is a law. So yes, your pain was deep, but it had a beginning and it has an end. You are healing. They, however, stepped into a lifetime war with their own mind. You cried into your pillow, maybe, but then you slept because your conscience was clean. They turned from side to side, trapped in invisible tension, because the greatest enemy of a person is often themselves. So now we have it. Relationships collapsing, peace collapsing, the mind becoming a battleground. But is that the final blow? Is that where the cosmic boomerang stops? No, there is one final strike, the unavoidable end where everything is paid. Are you ready for the third and heaviest sin? The loss of meaning. A mind at war, relationships in ruins. So where is the soul? Here is where the cosmic boomerang lands with its most destructive impact, right in the heart of the spirit. And now we reach the greatest of the unforgivable sins, the one divine justice does not tolerate because it violates something sacred in human life. Trying to deliberately extinguish another person's light, their hope, their potential, their future. What does that mean? It means they mocked your dreams. It means they tried to steal your joy. It means they did everything they could to break your strength, to keep you from standing back up. This isn't a mistake, it's a choice. Choosing destruction over creation, choosing darkness over light. And the universe has a rule. A person who lives to destroy eventually becomes empty inside. Someone who tries to erase meaning in others loses meaning in their own life. This is the inevitable end. The person who did this to you might look like they have everything: money, status, homes, cars, awards, attention. But one day, they stand in the center of all they own, and a terrible question rises in their chest. What is all of this for? This is what we call the harvest of emptiness. The moment they finally collect the fruit of years of jealousy, resentment, cruelty, and sabotage. But the fruit has no taste. It doesn't satisfy. A huge void opens. Success stops feeling like success. Laughter sounds fake, even to their own ears. Life becomes a black and white film with all the color drained out. Because meaning is the soul's fuel. Meaning is what gets you out of bed. Meaning is what helps you endure pain. Meaning is what makes life feel worth living. And the person who tries to steal fuel from someone else eventually discovers something horrifying. Their own tank is leaking. No matter how much they pour in, praise, pleasure, power, distraction, it never fills. Jung said that the deepest human drive is not pleasure, it's not power, it's the search for meaning. A life without meaning is a life that's barely alive. And this is the final destination for those who choose cruelty as a lifestyle. Hell is not a place of fire. Hell is that bottomless inner emptiness, having everything and feeling nothing. And while they wrestle inside that void, do you know who comes to mind? You. The person whose light they tried to turn off but couldn't, because while they were trying to break you, they were actually killing something inside themselves. And while they were harvesting emptiness, you were taking your pain and forging meaning, new strength, new wisdom, new boundaries. You were growing. They were shrinking. Do you see it now? Divine justice is not an angry God throwing lightning. Divine justice is a flawless system, like the gears of a clock. Steady, precise, unstoppable. A psychological law. Break trust, and you are sentenced to loneliness. Bend truth, and you lose peace. Destroy meaning, and you fall into emptiness. That was their story. That was their ending. And now I want you to stop feeding it. Stop obsessing over what will happen to them. Stop watching their life like a detective. Stop spending your energy tracking their consequences, because you already took your revenge. How? By healing. Your pain turned you into someone wiser, kinder, stronger. You learned. You stood back up. And maybe even now, listening to these words, you can feel that strength in you. Their ending became your beginning. So let them go. Let them harvest what they planted. The cosmic boomerang does not miss. But your job is not to watch it fly. Your job is to look up at your own sky, to walk your own path. Because the greatest revenge is not loud retaliation. It's a magnificent life, despite them and without them. And you've already started. Now I want you to do one thing, one simple thing for yourself, to seal your victory. Go to the comments and write one word, I'm healing. Just write that, because when you do, you're making a promise to yourself. And when you look at the comments, you'll see something else. You are not alone. There are thousands of people walking this same road, turning pain into power. Let's be each other's light. And if you don't want to walk this journey of self-discovery, strength, and meaning alone, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because what we talked about today was only the beginning. There are many more journeys ahead into the depths of your mind and your soul. Remember, the greatest victory isn't noisy revenge, it's quiet peace. And in the next episode, I'll be here to walk with you on the road that leads to it. Take care of yourself,